Morning to you, everybody. Welcome back to The Varied Life. Steve here, the retired hobby tech guy. And today we're going to be doing some fun stuff. We're going to be talking about, as you can see, retired in Korea, defamation laws here in Korea. Now, when you go to a foreign country and you retire, or you have a long-term visa, or hell, even just a tourist visa, you can find yourself in a lot of hot water for defamation, amongst other things. This is really interesting because, usually we think of defamation as something as, somebody says something about somebody and it's not true and it's, put out for the whole entire world to see, and that's a defamation. And we have that in the United States. The interesting thing is that it takes a lot to prove that. Of course, now today with the world of social media and internet and recordings and so on and so forth, that everybody posts TikToks. Now it's getting easier and easier. I mean, hell, even text messages. It's getting easier to, submit proof that somebody said something wrong about you. Well, what if you live in a foreign country? Well, here in Korea, defamation laws are very different, and unfortunately, there's people out there that don't seem to understand. Case in point, I was reading a post from somebody who was either military or a military spouse that's stationed here in Korea at the military base locally. And, it's interesting because they gave their 2 cents for all the world to see on this barbershop or hair salon place. And it ended up that, when I read that post, I was like, oh no. I'm hoping that the barbershop, beauty salon, whatever this place was, this place of business, that the owner doesn't see it, that they're lazy, that they'll just, they're not going to service that person again, for whatever reason. There's two sides to every story. I mean, there's always two sides, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. So, but this person ended up giving a review and not recommending this place, and then laid out all of these things saying, this is what this person did, this is what, they gave me attitude, and blah, blah, blah. Definitely a one-sided story. And even if everything is 100% true, there can be some problems when it comes to Korea, and if that offended or injured person submits a defamation claim here in Korea. And we're going to talk about this because you can be guilty even if it's true. So yeah, this is going to be really interesting. So let's jump right into this. Somebody posted this, but I had also seen it a long time ago. It was like about a year ago. I've been here over 2 years. I have about 14 plus years in Korea. So yeah, we're getting really, really interested in this. This is from the Seoul Law Group, and I have no association with them whatsoever. The only thing I do is check out their sites, their blogs, some of their other things to find out some good information, because I'm bored sometimes. Anyway, defamation laws in Korea, civil, cyber, Korean defamation laws. Now, this is very important because with the advent of social media and somebody giving a recommendation or somebody impinging upon someone's rapport or, how they're seen in the world has opened up defamation in a huge way, especially here in Korea. So it's very different than those of other countries. And this is the biggest thing. This thing right here is where it talks about defamation in different countries. When you go to a different country, you should probably look up the laws. And I know a lot of people don't. I mean, there's laws that I haven't even looked up that I probably should. But in any words, even if it's true, harming another can be considered illegal and may be punishable with fines or even imprisonment. Yeah, you read that right. In most Western countries, only civil liability for defamation exists. So in other words, you go to a civil trial. If it's true and there's a judgment, there can be a fine paid. And then, you have to pay like the person's legal fees or so on and so forth. But here in Korea, there's a civil liability, and you can be criminally punished as well. So it's a two-edged sword. It's almost like getting punished twice. They hit you in the pocketbook, and if it's bad enough, and if the court sides with you, you could end up with some jail time. Talks about this defamation laws, and basically you look under these things under the Criminal Act, Civil Act, and Network Act, and then some other information. This is the key thing right here. It talks about defamation in Korea refers to any reputational damage inflicted on a person, focus, even if the statements are true. Defamation laws are not only limited to living people, but can also be about dead people. Wow, who would have thought? It is vital to know that being sued for defamation in Korea can lead to both civil and criminal liability. People charged with defamation can receive up to 7 years in prison or pay a fine, and up to 7 years in prison. If you're a non-Korean, this might lead to deportation. This is huge because what we're talking about here is the point of, in the case of the individual that was relaying their experience with this hair salon, barbershop, whatever place it was, whatever this place of business was, and saying, hey, all of these things are going on, and this is what happened. I can't recommend, blah, 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 attitude, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Even let's just take that person's account as 100% factual, that there is no bias whatsoever, that she or he is totally in the right, and he or she makes this video or social media post about this salon, barbershop place, and it ends up it's 100% true. If it damages the reputation of that shop, you can still be charged with defamation, and you can still be held liable even though it's 100% true. So this is really interesting because in this post, and I can't find it, I'm wondering if it hadn't gotten removed because things were getting kind of hot, and there were some other people that recommended and actually posted this exact same article saying, hey, you need to be careful there. And it's like, yeah, you really do need to be careful there. And then I put in my comments, and it's like, oh, I've been in here, I know the Korean laws. And it's like, sweetie, obviously you don't. Because if you even took a minute to search Korea defamation laws, you would find a plethora of information showing just how wrong you can be, and you're only safe because of the fact that maybe the salon owner, the business owner, didn't see your post on an American, military support group, whatever thing page, and you be thankful for that. Be thankful that that business did not read what you posted. Or if somebody forwards it, you could be in trouble. That's all I'm saying. And being a spouse of a military service member, or even being a military service member, you're covered under the Status of Forces Agreement. So when military members and their families come here, the United States government and the Korean government came together and said, hey, you're going to have certain benefits of being under this Status of Forces Agreement, so families can be together and soldiers are going to be here. So there's a special category for that. You get certain rights and privileges and coverage by law and so on and so forth. But just because you are under the SOFA agreement does not remove you from Korean defamation laws. It's a thing. The amount of defamation reports have increased over 40% since the year 2000, so have actual lawsuits and imprisonment. Now, again, we're looking at the full spectrum from, very minor to very extreme. But the thing is that there's a lot of wiggle room in there. But the thing that I think people should understand is that last part, it says, if you're a non-Korean, this might lead to deportation. It all depends on the severity of the defamation. It depends on the totality of circumstances. It also depends on the judge of when this goes to court. and how you act before the judge and how the judge feels. And, if he wants to make an example of a foreigner who is, damaging the reputation of a business, of a Korean business, and there seems to be some rise in, non-Korean sentiment here in Korea. But if you do something stupid, that will just kind of, stupid people do stupid things, and other people don't like stupid people. That's a worldwide fact. But yeah, you could end up being deported. So you can imagine that if you leave a review and something that says, "Oh, this is terrible," and so on and so forth, that could be really bad. Now, you might be saying, well, what recourse do people have? Well, we'll get into that a little bit. So they got a little video here you could watch. But basically, under the Criminal Act, a person who defames another by publicly alleging facts shall be punished by imprisonment or imprisonment without labor for not more than 2 years or a fine not exceeding 5 million won. So for those people that are wondering, 5 million won, let's see, 5 million won, we'll divide it by, let's say it's 1430. I think that's close enough for government work. So it's about $3,500. That's a lot of money, $3,500 there. So, and that's without. Of course, that's not exceeding 5 million. So it can go from, maybe a few 100,000 won all the way up to 5 million or $3,500. A person who defames another by publicly alleging false facts shall be imprisoned for not more than 5 years, suspensions of qualifications for not more than 10 years, and a fine not exceeding 10 million won. Read those two things, sweetie, for the person that left that review and how they don't recommend and how they knew the Korean laws. I know what I'm talking about, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, apparently you do not. It's only by, I would say, some people would say, by the grace of God, or just because the business owner doesn't know that you left such a review, that you're probably not going to get punished. You're not going to get charged. But if somebody were to pass that on to the business and the business owner, something gets up his or her nose and presses the issue, guess what? Yeah, it doesn't look good. And again, publicly alleging facts shall be punished, or publicly alleging false facts. Those are two important things. So you could be 100% factually true in your account, but if it damages the reputation of that business, person, or entity, yeah, you could be charged. And then also, if you have false facts, the same thing can apply, but it's basically double the punishment. Again, you need to be really careful. Article 307 refers to defamation done by spreading a true story, while the Article 307.2 refers to defamation by spreading a false story. Again, we talked about that. Publicly means that the perpetrator must tell the story to many people, or at least there must be a possibility that it would spread to many people. Now, back in the day before social media, it was kind of interesting because, you go to, some business or store and they treated you bad or for whatever thing, and then you go back and, you're having a barbecue with the neighbors and you're like, yeah, I went to that store, I went to that business and they treated me bad. I'm never going back. They're a bunch of losers. That was pretty much it. It was word of mouth. But here in Korea, and with the world and technology and Twitter and texting and Facebook posts and videos, that once they get onto the interwebs, they are there forever. This kind of muddies the water because now it is so much easier for many people to get this information, whether it's true or false, in regards to defamation here in Korea. For instance, if a perpetrator told their story to one or two people, or they could be trusted to keep a secret, a parent, spouse, whatever, then it can't be defamation. So if a business, let's say I go to a business and they treat me bad for whatever reason, and I tell my wife or family, then it's not defamation. It's like, we're just never going to do business there again, and probably family members won't either. But even if the perpetrator told the story to only one or two people, it can still be defamation if the possibility that those people spread the story to many other people. So, and it talks about dead people here, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to get into that because no one's dead. Defamation through printed materials. This is interesting. Magazine, radio, or other publication with intent to defame shall be imprisoned and blah for 3 years, fined 7 million won. And publication, the definition of that is very interesting when we're talking about what is publication here. Could that be a Facebook post? Could it be a social media? Could it be a TikTok? Probably could. I'm guessing because you published it for the world to see. So that's kind of interesting. Defamation through printed materials. Again, printed materials. Newspapers, media, radio, book, etc. With special intent to defame the victim. This punishment gets more severely than the normal defamation. And printed materials doesn't exactly need to be newspaper, magazine, radio, but it could at least function like those published materials. For example, if a perpetrator distributed a couple pages of paper handouts to people, then it can't be, to people on the road, it can't be defamation through printed materials. In that case, the perpetrator would be punished with normal defamation. Let's see, where's the other one? Blah, blah, blah. However, according to Korean Supreme Court, the alleged facts don't always have to be true. If the defendant believed it to be true, there is good reason to believe it, that would fall under Article 310. Also, it doesn't have to solely be for public interest, according to the Supreme Court, even if the perpetrator has a personal reason. Their personal grudge against the victim, spread the story, their action can still be justified for the main reason for public interest. So, talks about some other stuff there. Defamation under the Civil Act. Victims file a lawsuit and ask for a change for damage compensation as defamation is related to social deterioration in terms of someone's character, reputation, credit standing, personality, or more. This is why the Korean Civil Act prepared a special rule for defamation. Usually when a person causes damage to another person by an unlawful act, they should make compensation with money. That is usually kind of a thing here in Korea. Lower level crimes or offenses, things like that, are often made whole by the payment of a fine. But according to Article 764, the court can order the person to take a suitable measure to repair the damage aside from monetary compensation. So, yeah, and under the Network Act, Information and Communications Network Utilization and Information Protection, good Lord, that's a lot. Or simply, the Network Act stipulates that description and punishment of defamation happens online, known as cyberbullying. So now we're getting into cyberbullying. And if relaying something that impinges on the reputation of a person or business or place or thing or whatever, that can be seen as cyberbullying, even if it's true. The most frequent types of defamation through social media and online networks includes writing bad reviews about products or services. What do we talk about? Leaving malicious comments to another person. And this is very interesting because, when we get to people and they talk about, oh, well, I did this, and this person that we were talking about that left this review in the barbershop, salon business, whatever, saying, oh, I know the Korean laws and I've written this so that I am immune from all of these things. I cannot be punished, because I'm not liable because I'm so smart and I've spent a lot of time in Korea and I know the Korean laws. Sweetheart, you don't know the Korean laws. It's just be thankful that the business owner didn't see your review and got a bug up their nose to push this to charge you with defamation. I mean, it's right here. It's in English. It's not like it's in Korean. I've looked at other websites that were in Korean and have them translated into English with online translation, and yeah, it's the same. And sometimes it's even worse. No user may circulate any information volatile of another person's right, including the right to privacy and defamation through an information and communications network. So don't think that just because it's TikTok or Facebook or whatever it is, whatever Twitch, Kickstream, IRL stuff that they got going on, that is part of an information and communications network. Don't think that you're immune because that is an American company and so you're under American law. No, that's not how it happens. Every provider of information shall make an effort to prevent information under paragraph 1 from being circulated through the network and managed provider. The Korean Communications Commission may prepare a policy on technological development, education, public relation activities, and other activities to prevent violation of another person's right through this communication network thing. A huge majority of cyber defamation police reports, and again, this is filed with the police. It's filed with the police. I know probably a lot of people wouldn't file a defamation claim, but they do. And again, it just depends on how motivated the person is that got that damaged reputation. Is from one person, they probably won't. But you never know if something gets up their nose. Cyberbullying from gaming incidents in all the games, League of Legends is involved in almost half the cases, which is wild. It's an online game or whatever. Players being verbally abused by teammates or opponents. There are even settlement fee hunters who enter games with the intention of being insulted by other players. So just like in other countries, some people just make it their job to file lawsuits against others. So yeah, there's that. These players are mostly teenagers, and their parents often agree to a settlement instead of having the case go to trial, up to 2 million Korean won. So about 1,400 won is a dollar. So let's just put it that way. Defamation defense lawyer in Korea. If you're being sued for defamation, especially as a non-Korean, is highly recommend use this law group and whatever. And they have the case studies here in Korea. Japanese reporter, defamation laws in Korea. It's kind of an interesting thing. Frequently asked questions. Is it defamation if I'm telling the truth? This is the huge one. Yes. Korean defamation laws don't differentiate between the truth or not. Defamation in Korea refers to any reputational damage inflicted on a person. How is the Me Too movement influencing Korean defamation laws? The public is becoming more and more aware that if somebody has gone through something which is unfair, the truth should be revealed. This movement has been pushing for a revision of the laws. So yeah, it's kind of interesting on what we end up seeing here in regards to defamation here in Korea. And there's some things here where, excuse me, got to have a little bit of latte to fix everything. But yeah, it's really interesting when we talk about defamation laws, and it really becomes quite the interesting thing. Let me rearrange some desktop here. We've got a Fitness Freak says, man, whatever happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Yeah, it's being in a foreign country. It is really an odd thing. But if you have spent any time traveling, and for example, if you go to Thailand, if you talk bad about the monarchy in Thailand, they can pick you up and take you and put you in prison. Yeah, defamation is huge in Thailand. So yeah, it's we're used to that. Sticks and stones. Say whatever you want. My mother, is whatever this, that, or whatever. I don't care because I know that's not true. You can say whatever you want about me, my wife, my mother, my family, my dog. Well, I don't have a dog. But you can say anything, and I know it's not true. I'm going to carry myself with professionalism and know that you're just trying to push my button, but you're not going to get a response. My response is going to be like, that's it? That's the best you got? Okay. Well, all righty. You win. I'm gone. But it's very different when we're talking about being here in a foreign country and being here in Korea when we talk about defamation. So, and I think the younger generation thinks they're immune from all of this stuff. They're immune from laws, their accountability, and a prime example of this is Johnny Somali. Johnny Somali, in case you didn't know, let me pull up this this wonderful person's. It's just. It's just terrible, 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 terrible. Let's get into this. Johnny Somali is an IRL streamer, in the real world streamer, and he's a nuisance streamer. And so what he ends up doing is actually going through, causing problems with people and infringing upon the rights of others, doing criminal acts, civil, acts. In other words, he does offenses, different fines and so on and so forth, interfering with businesses. Harassment is a big thing here in Korea, and he has gotten in a lot of trouble. So let's take a look at a little bit Johnny Somali, this piece of garbage person. I just really just don't like him for the fact that he is just a total tool. Controversial Johnny Somali, which isn't his real name, and he's not Somali. He actually used that moniker, Johnny Somali, in Somali because he hates Somalians and he wants to give them a bad name. That's according to his own words. So let's get this up a little bit. But what he ended up doing is that he faces backlash and he's committed crimes here in Korea. Matter of fact, it ends up that he twerked and disrespected comfort women statues. So in other words, under the Japanese occupation, the Japanese forced Korean women into prostitution. So that is like a huge thing. It shouldn't have been done. A lot of atrocities were committed by the Japanese when they occupied Korea, kind of on the same level as World War II Nazis. Some of the experiments that the Japanese did on Koreans is on par with what Dr. Mengele did. It is absolutely insane when you get into the history, but just a lot of people don't know. But anyway, it ends up that he has committed a number of crimes. And matter of fact, he has ended up going to court recently. And what he ended up getting, he pled guilty to 3 different counts. And that's going to be really interesting because in these 3 counts, where am I? Okay, let's just trying to find my page thing there. Page, back to page. There we go. We're back. My computer was playing games. Sorry about that. But it ends up that he pleaded guilty to 3 charges. He has another charge. I think 2 of them were crimes against children. Another one was a crime against a business, interfering with business. So he pled guilty to all 3 of those. Now, the thing is that he does this nuisance streaming thing and he, it's not me. He's got videos of him issuing bomb threats through his phone. I have a bomb on public transportation. He's, said he supports North Korea, plays the North Korean national anthem, which is North Korean propaganda, which is illegal here in Korea. So that's a huge thing right there. But he just received another charge in the Eastern District for a crime that he committed there. So the interesting thing is that he talks bad about Korean people and businesses and so on and so forth. So it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't come up and get a defamation charge from individuals or businesses. That is entirely possible. But the laws are very different here in Korea than they are in the United States. In the United States, if you get bad service, you're Twitter and you're texting and you're Xing and the whole 9 yards and so Facebook and telling people this business is terrible. And, it is what it is. Nobody cares. Here in Korea and other countries abroad, it's very, very different on what happens when we talk about defamations. So, for the people that claim that they know the Korean laws, like the individual that left the barbershop business review and how terrible and all this, and even if his or her account was 100% factual, under Korean law, she can still be brought up on charges where they can still be brought up on charges for defamation. So it's just, I'm just amazed at the lack of knowledge of people that think they know how things work here in Korea, even though they might have been stationed here with their spouse or stationed here in the military, and they've been here a few years or a number of years. There's even people that have been here 10, 15, 20 years, longer than I've been in Korea, and they don't know the Korean laws. They don't know what they're talking about. I had a gentleman recently tell me, who has had 17 years in Korea, told me that foreigners can't buy property. And I'm like, where did you get this information? Well, you can't buy property, blah, 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 blah. You're wrong. And I'm like, I can show you the deed to my apartment. And it's Chinese are buying up properties in Jeju-do sight unseen. There's a lot of Chinese that are coming into Korea, along with other nationalities, that are buying properties. And you don't even have to be in Korea to buy property here in Korea. You could buy property outside, just do it over the phone, online, boom, transfer funds, and yeah, boom, there you go. You bought property. You can come here on a tourist visa and you're a foreigner and you can buy property. You can come here on a long-term visa and buy property here in Korea. There's no restrictions on buying property, foreigners buying property in Korea. So when I get people that are saying, no, you can't do that, after a little digging, these people come away with this thing that they think is true, but really in reality, it's not 100% factual. And after doing some digging with this individual, it found out that a long time ago, he tried to buy property, and what he tried to do was finance the property. The Korean bank rejected the loan application, said, no, you're just not a good enough credit risk. You don't have enough money. You don't have this or that income. The debt to income ratio, we're not comfortable with that. You're not working here in Korea, whatever. So the bank rejected the application for the loan. So he couldn't buy a property. So what he took away from that was foreigners can't buy property in Korea. Okay, so whether it was translation error or he didn't understand what was going on, the only outcome was no, you can't buy property. You're a foreigner, you just can't buy property. That's entirely a possibility. But it begs the question, is that what really happened? And can foreigners buy property? Yes, you absolutely can. I'm proof of that. But getting back to the defamation laws, people think they know so much about Korean laws, and you could just do a cursory search on Korean defamation and any other thing here in Korea, and you will find there's a lot to navigate when it comes to Korean laws. So, for example, another thing that self-defense is interesting, because in the United States, and I am an American citizen, I believe in the right to, self-defense, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, the Second Amendment, all of those great things, the right to redress, your grievances, against the government and so on and so forth. We're used to all that. But the difference is here in Korea, it's very, very different. And self-defense, let's say you go out to a bar and you're drinking, you get a little bit tipsy, and then there's a Korean national. And a Korean national gets a little bit tipsy, and we actually bump into each other, and both of us get offended. Next thing you know, we're going to fisticuffs and doing the rock'em sock'em robot thing. And police show up. You can't say, well, he threw the first punch. I was defending myself, and that's why I hit him, because I was in fear for my life and great bodily damage, injury, so on and so forth. In Korea, bar fights like that, there is no self-defense. It's a bar fight. And so you're both equally liable. So then what it comes down to is who got hurt the most. This is very interesting, because if you spend a certain amount of time in the hospital for your injuries, you are more liable and you will get fined to pay for said injuries and pay for the hospital stay for that person. And then there's also a fine to make it right. So there is an opportunity there If you're an honest individual, yeah, it seems kind of fair because it was a bar fight. It was stupid. You were both at fault because somebody attacked. You ended up attacking back, responding with an attack. It's just in that circumstance, nobody wins. Okay, so the court looks at that and says, now if there's weapons involved, then obviously there's going to be greater totality of circumstances when we're talking about that. Then that's a whole different realm. But talking about just like bar fights and things like that, street fights, yeah, it's there is no self-defense, and so really, you can run away. The very first self-defense class I learned when I was a teenager, and I joined this, what was it, self-defense, it was Seidler self-defense system, the same self-defense system that they used in the United States Marines, and this guy that was teaching it, me and my buddy, we were all hyped up, and we're like, yeah, we're going to be martial arts badasses. Now, this was back in the day of 80s, early 80s, so yeah, it's kind of get into the Jean-Claude Van Damme early movies, and everybody wanted to be like that. Chuck Norris and stuff like it was like ooh, the very first lesson that we did was 2 hours of sprints and running, and that knocked our dick in the dirt. It was rough, and the instructor was like, "Well, when are we going to learn, how to punch and kick?" More sprints, more running. And man, so are we going to learn how to kick? More sprints. And so it got to the point where we didn't ask the question because we were so tired. And the very first lesson was run away. There's no reason. If you can run away, run away. So, excuse me. So yeah, that was my very first lesson in martial arts. But here in Korea, that is also a thing that you don't have to be there. You can run away and keep yourself safe. Now, again, the totality of circumstances. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, with all things being equal here in Korea, bar fights, street fights, things like that, it's really just going to come down to you got to pay a fine and, pay restitution, and it's a done deal. It doesn't, self-defense is very different here in Korea than it is in the United States, believe me. So, yeah, defamation, getting back to that, it is very interesting because in America and other countries, we have no qualms whatsoever with saying, whatever we want to say, whether it's right or wrong about a business, this person did this and they did this and they, I'll never go there again and you shouldn't go. I don't recommend it. And we take it for what it is. Well, okay, I've ate there or frequented that business. I've never had that happen. Or you could take it and say, well, maybe, maybe I'll give it a second thought. I don't know. Maybe I'll go, maybe I won't. If it's really egregious, then yeah, it'll be like, yeah, I'm not going to go there, so no big deal. The marketplace will sort that out. But here in Korea, reputation is a big thing. If you damage the reputation of the person or business, that can be very problematic. The other problem, on the other side of the coin, you might say, well, what recourse do people have here in Korea if you run into bad business? There are reviews. And reviews on businesses, everything from delivery to business to service to products, everything is review driven. And, you just need to kind of take it with a grain of salt. Unless it's really egregious, but ratings are very important. And the big difference between Korea and the United States is that the majority of Koreans are hardworking people. They're respectful, they're mature, they try to do good, and as a most part, I enjoy it over here in Korea more because people are more respectful. They're more civil, they're more mature. Going on public transportation is a nice, quiet, and enjoyable experience. It's not, you don't have people, unless it's Johnny Somali, threatening people with rape or, whatever. I have a bomb, just that stuff doesn't happen here in Korea that much because people respect each other, and I enjoy that. But yeah, when we get to the defamation thing, it's just very interesting that some people just don't know what they're talking about. And, ooh, I lived in Korea. Here's the big thing. I lived in Korea. I know all about Korea. Okay, you were stationed there with your military spouse and you lived on post, or maybe you lived off post and the military paid your rent and you live close enough to a military base that's pretty much all you do. Yeah, you take some trips, some day trips, and you do some blogging or whatever. That's totally cool. But you can't say that you know Korea. You just went on some trips. The majority of your life is spent on the military base, which is highly Americanized. What are the odds? And that's a reason why I chose to live close to a military base, so we have that connection. My wife as well. She's Korean ancestry, but we spent our formative years and most of our married years of me being in the military, and so it kind of feels like home to us. But with that, since we retired here in Korea, retired, we have some insight to some things that those people don't. We have property taxes. We have all things would go with owning property, registration, vehicles, all, more things than the average spouse or military member does not get to engage in when they live here under the SOFA agreement. So there's a lot of similar things, and there are things that we do exactly the same, trash recycling. If you live on post, you don't have to recycle your trash. You just throw it in the bin. Here in Korea, when you're off post, you have to recycle and separate your trash. But I just find it disingenuous that people think that, well, I spent 2 years in Korea or 4 years or whatever, living on a military base or living off of the military dime and then claiming, ooh, I know everything there is to know about Korea and living off post. Oh, I know about Korean laws and defamation. Ooh, no, you don't. It's very clear that you don't. But this elitist attitude that, somehow equates to you living in a place for a certain amount of time means that you're knowledgeable on Korean laws, that dog don't hunt. So I just find that very problematic. It's just very, very interesting here. And you can leave reviews that are like, well, this didn't work out, and you will see them here in Korea. But more often than not, if you have a problem with a person or a business or a service, whatever it is, entity, and you didn't get the service that you think you deserved, 9 times out of 10, 99.9 times out of 10, if you go to that business and you're humble and you're respectful, you will get treated the same in return. They will work with you to do this, but if you have some wild claims, if you have some unrealistic expectations, or anything like that, it's probably and you think that you're better and that the customer is always right, regardless. You might run into resistance here in Korea. And again, thinking of yourself higher than the people that you're dealing with, that elitist attitude can often get you into trouble. It's just, you got to, I'm not going to say you got to give respect to get respect, but you should be respectful regardless. And then if somebody doesn't respect you back, then just make a mental note of it and say, oh, okay, well, I'm just not going to go there. And then that's that. But when you step over that line and you start posting this stuff, a review of a person, a business, whatever it is, saying that you engaged with the owner and they did this, this, and this, remember, according to Korean law, even if it's true, you can be held liable for defamation according to Korean law. So yeah, it's kind of a different thing that we got going on here in Korea. But for the majority of people, it's not a problem. And the thing is that, just like in the Korean law, we'll have Korean family members that'll say, hey, we went here, we had bad service. And then through word of mouth, yeah, okay, well, I trust my aunt, cousin, second twice removed, niece, nephew, brother-in-law, whatever it is. I trust them more, and so I'll take their word for it, I probably won't go there. It's not a big deal. That's not defamation. But when you start posting stuff on social media, and if that owner of the business feels that they've been damaged by those facts, whether they're true or whether they're false, you can be brought up on charges of defamation. It just depends on how much it gets up their nose, if it does at all. But yeah, just be careful out there, please. Worst case scenario, you get fined, 5 million won. Maybe you get some jail time, but if you're a military service member or their spouse, you might get deported. How would that look? Could you imagine being the spouse of a military service member, and the worst case scenario happens in a defamation lawsuit, and they say, yeah, well, you got to pay a fine, $3,500, and oh, by the way, we're going to deport you out of Korea. It all depends on, in the United States, it's like, you're held against a jury of your peers. In Korea, sometimes it's just the judge himself or herself that runs the case and gives the punishment and so on and so forth. So, yeah, it's a thing. And public apology is also a thing as well. That's something that Johnny Somali found out, is that, he apologized for what he did, and because somebody told him that, well, if you apologize in Korea, then they'll just kind of, okay, whatever. It'll brush it off and it won't be a big deal. But if your apology is not sincere, that can actually work in the opposite ways that you think. Because if you apologize and then you just keep doing stupid, then yeah, that could be a problem. So yeah, it's best to be aware of Korean defamation laws, but I don't worry about them. Somebody that I was talking to, this was a while back when we came upon this subject and we were talking about it. And it's like, I don't worry about it. This other guy, he didn't worry about it, but it's on the books. Again, the whole idea is to be respectful to other people. And if you have something, kind of like in the military, they say, work it out at the lowest level. Okay? There's no need to just blow this thing up on social media, Facebook, TikTok, for the entire world to see when, it's just... And if you think that you've been slighted, then the simple thing is don't frequent that business. There's the interesting thing is that there was other people on that thread or that post that were saying, yeah, I've been there and it's always had great service, never had a problem. So again, that's kind of proving, saying, hey, look at all the good reviews I've got. This person is leaving this bad review. That could be used in a defamation case against them, saying, well, these are all my other reviews and they're great. They're glowing. But this person claims that I was horrible and it was bad. And so really, what is the judge going to look at? They're going to look at a history of a business or a person that has been giving a service or a product and, for years and years and years, versus a foreigner who left one bad review. Again, the judge is probably, they're going to squash this. Okay, boom, pay the fine and boom, we're done. So Jeremy comes up and he says, boom, I feel like the defamation laws here are too restrictive, but that sounds crazy. Yes, it can be. And if you read through some of the cases here in Korea where they talk about defamation and some of the laws and some of the cases, a lot of them are higher level, high profile cases, but there are a lot of smaller cases as well that, even just social media posts and things like that, you can be held liable for defamation if the offended person feels that their reputation or business has been damaged by that. Which, it's a thing, but for the majority of people that we know, that I know, that my wife's family and everybody, they don't go around in fear of, defamation. I can't say anything. I'm in this restrictive, communist type country where I can't say anything. They don't go around. They don't feel like that. It's a different law. It's a different thing. And when you live overseas, it's just another consideration. but I just find it disingenuous. I find it ignorant of people who say that they know Korean laws and no, I'm not, it's not defamation. I know what I'm talking about. It's 100% true. Like I said, sweetie, it can be 100% true and it could still be defamation charge according to Korean law. So don't think that you're all that in a bag of chips. So, Jerry says, I imagine it keeps folks polite and cuts down on Karens. Yes, it does. It really does. But then again, the whole mentality of Koreans here is a lot different. Some people have equated it to Korea being socially kind of like we were back in the 50s. The 40s and the 50s, people had respect for each other, and dressed nice and, manners and respect and civility, things like that. It's kind of like that. And that's another reason I like Korea is because they have more respect. And being a foreigner, I know there's some people that look down on me because I'm a foreigner, because I'm married to a Korean. It's more accepted now than what it was before. Now we're just at the age we don't give a shit. So it doesn't really matter to us. And we don't hear comments. And it's not a big deal now. It's more accepted. But generally as a whole, people are more respectful. And so when you get on public transportation, it's quiet. It's nice. Matter of fact, we went to Busan. We're going to go back to Busan and take a train for like 2 hours. It's like stepping into a church. Quiet. Not Pentecostal rolling, running down, doing somersaults, screaming and yelling in some weird language. Not that type of church. But it's quiet. People are respectful. They have their earphones in. They're not blaring music. They're not getting drunk. They're respectful of other people's privacy, and it actually makes traveling enjoyable here in Korea. So yeah, it's there's pros and cons to everything, but yeah, just got to be careful with the defamation thing. Anyway, that's what we got going on. I thought that would be an interesting little topic to go over, and yeah, I just love the people who think they know all about Korea and all about Korean laws and they know everything there is to know just because, they spent a tour here. Okay. Be careful. Pride comes before a fall. That's all I'm going to say. We'll leave it with that. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Some interesting stuff going on here in Korea. If you have any questions, again, you can contact me on the email. You can put it in the comment section down below. I've got the email there. I've answered every single person that has emailed me, even the crazy people. Give a like and subscribe to my channel, The Varied Life on YouTube. I would appreciate that. And if you feel so inclined, you can also buy me a coffee. There's a link in the description box down below, which, by the way, these are some of the awesome people that have bought me coffees. So I got to thank them for that because I love my coffee. Got to keep me in the way that I'm accustomed to living. But with that, we're going to let you all go because it is, what is it? It's 8:38, 8:40, something in the morning here in Korea. And I got some stuff to do. It's Saturday, so it's the weekend. So I'm going to kind of chill out and do some stuff on the computer and do some 3D printing stuff. And we will see you on the next video. All right. Peace. Fun stuff.